Ah, yes, the great innovator who's never innovated anything in his life other than inherit a bunch of money from his wealthy dad who's living and having sex with his one of his adopted sisters, I think. And he's got 14 kids or 24 kids or something. I don't know. Who knows? Who cares? He's just a Yahoo alien. He's the alien Musk. That's right. So he's just sort of like the main figurehead right now that America is doing their best to take down, and I'm just beside myself with kind of glee about it, you know. And there was a time, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, where I was sort of rooting for him, but I've always thought that his product and his cars were just way overpriced. And then, which I didn't like, because I knew that to produce them is just not that much. And he didn't have the people working for him didn't have a strong union. He didn't even have a healthcare system. He's just like all the other. He's just like Bezos and whatever. They feed off of us. They leech off of us. They're like big giant fat ticks that are sucking on the blood of the American citizens. They see this giant pile of $5 to $6 trillion that we deposit into the coffers every year through taxes. Those of us that actually pay taxes. There's a giant world of us that don't, or avoid it, or lie and cheat. If all of that would stop, there's no telling how much money we would have for the things we need as a society. Now, the more I look at this whole, tariff thing, which apparently a idiot or alien has decided he doesn't like that much, so him and Trumpetto, that's the puppet master, which, well, that's giving him way too much credit. And then looking at all the Chinese people that are now kind of on our internet, maybe a lot of it's propaganda as well. But the way I look at it, it's all I've seen is a pretty clean and modern country in China. I've even seen videos of out in the country and tea farmers up in the mountains, and everybody's driving around like nice new electric vehicles, and you can hop on a train and go just about anywhere. A nice modern super fast train. Same with their buses in their big cities are just works of art almost. Now, I'm sure there's some funk. There always is where humans are involved. But that's the difference. In China they say we, us. They take their money and their profits and their taxes and whatever. I don't think they pay income tax like we do, but, the money that's generated through the efforts of the citizens is plowed back into the country, into the infrastructure. I mean, I've seen these malls and these subway stations and train stations and bus stations and all along all the big cities. There's just rows and rows of bicycles, and the way you check it out is just with your phone. Zoom, everything's just modern and clean and simple. And then I look around here and I'm like, my God, look at this place. It looks like we look like the third world country, not them. So, of course, in our country, everything is me, me, mine, me, you know. Meanwhile, all the wealthy people get the welfare. They get the subsidies. They get their businesses underwritten by the American taxpayer. And then the rest of us are supposed to be rugged individuals and, I'm not letting that, they got us all convinced that we're supposed to live in these little units all by ourselves and grow a garden to survive and, or go hide in the woods somewhere and, think about it. There's no real sense of community. In the black community, there is a sense of community. I mean, they have their problems, but in the Mexican or the, I would say Mexican community, I'm not going to lump all the rest of the Latinos. You take them as individual groups. I'm sure within the Venezuelan community, they have a sense of community. I know in the Mexican-American communities, they have a sense of community and traditions. And what do white Americans do besides putting bread up a turkey's ass once a year, or standing around underneath a evergreen tree based on a tradition from Scandinavia? There wasn't even a Santa Claus until Coke commercials back in the 1920s or, whenever, something like that. Anyway, it's pretty sad, don't you think? Why we can't have a country that has all that? Is it our system that's fucked up? Yes. And I'm tired of the isms. Communism, socialism, capitalism. The only one that I'm not tired of saying is Nazi bullshit. This guy. And that's the new Nazi logo, that Tesla symbol. So, there's just a lot here in the state of Florida. My God, this is the fascist state of Florida. Although I got to say, I think people are starting to wake up a little bit and figure out how screwed up this is, and they're standing up and doing something about it. Here a week ago, 8-9 days ago, on the 5th, April the 5th, right? Oh my God, that was my wife and mine anniversary. Oh, I knew that. But what we did, because we're just getting too old for climbing up hills and stuff, is we did a drive-by and a wave and honked, and there was literally thousands of people. They didn't have any room. Both sides of the street for blocks and blocks and blocks were wall-to-wall people with signs, and they were, down inside of side streets. And every Saturday there's a road called Park Avenue that goes up right to the center of town. Not the main road that goes through, but it crisscrosses that, and it's got an island. And in that island on Saturdays, they have a farmer's market. that farmer's market was packed. I mean, we've only been there a couple of times because we go up. We just have a little co-op. It's only about a mile from our house, so we get fresh produce, locally grown from there, and all organic food. It's a co-op. So that was encouraging. That at least made me see that there's hope. But Florida, like most of these places they're calling ultra right wing, is I wouldn't say quite 50-50, but it's probably like 45-55. With a whole bunch of independents in between that are, no telling what they're going to do. And in this last special elections that we had here in Florida, both the Democrats lost, but the margins were so close. And over in the District 1, which encompassed Escambia County, which is the county I used to live in, that's Pensacola and NAS, the Naval Air Station there. And that county went for Gay Valde, I can't remember her last name. So that was encouraging because when I lived there, it was Democrats were like 13% compared to the rest. The only time it got up into the 40s was when Barack Obama was elected, because there's a big, Escambia County also has a very large black population. So if they would come out and vote in significant numbers, Democrats would always have a chance there locally, but unfortunately, they're suppressed. But nationally, I don't know. I've been seeing all kinds of pictures on television of the demonstrations, and apparently this weekend coming up, this Saturday, they're going to have another one. It's going to be a different title this time. It's not going to be hands off. It's going to be, I don't know. I really don't know what it's going to be. I've been busy putting in my garden, which I do every spring and have done most of my life, actually, except for, there were some years I skipped it. When I was over when I was living in California this last time, I didn't really put in a vegetable garden because my wife at the time was putting in flower gardens everywhere. Can't eat flowers, but whatever. My channel has a lot to do with Linux and Mastodon, and now I'm on Blue Sky and Skylight, which Skylight is, they're up to like 3-minute videos you can post on there, and it's pretty good. I mean, I'm grooving on it. I'm going to do that because it's a kind of a startup. I don't really record, much over there on TikTok. I was over there fooling around for a while, but ever since all this stuff happened and, Zuckerberg had his meeting, Zuckerberger, and it's really gone downhill. It's just a commercial nightmare. Every now and then, somebody I recognize from the past when I was there, who was on my friend's feed, comes through. But I think people are starting to scatter to the wind. They're coming here to YouTube. They're going to Instagram. Some people are sticking with Facebook. I'm not a big Facebook fan, but they want to post videos on Facebook and make fun of Zuckerberg and see how long it lasts. I think that's a good thing. Let's see, I about run out of subjects. It's hot. It's not even May yet, I don't think, right? March, April. It's April. And it's just hot. It's in the mid to upper 80s already. And that usually doesn't happen until next month. But we've been having, the last couple of years, it's been hitting the 90s in May and still hitting the 90s in the beginning of October. And then it might start cooling off into the 80s a bit. And then because of the jet stream being so erratic these last few years, we had a snow this last Christmas, 2 or 3 inches, and it stayed on the ground for 3 days. It was nice and sunny after it snowed, but it just was weird. Kind of took care of our winter garden, although the collards and the lettuce made it through the snow. I don't do anything about protecting plants or any of that. My philosophy is, if they make it, they make it. Sorry if they don't. And plus, I think getting them used to the variations in the climate for this area is probably important as well. It's kind of like how I feel about washing in clothes. If clothes don't survive my washing machine and my dryer, I don't, own them. I'm not dry cleaning anything or, getting ready to maybe put the old clothesline back up, but that's a pain in the butt, especially when you're getting older. I have a cousin who lives in Europe. She's been living in Amsterdam for the last few years, but she's lived in England for I don't know, probably 35, 40 years now. She left Canada. She grew up in Ottawa, Canada. I have another cousin who still lives in Ottawa, Canada, and then another cousin who married a band of Cree Indians. I think translated, her tribe means dog carriers or dog friends or something like that. I can't pronounce the name of the tribe, but they're modern and everything. They live in Yellowknife, which, if you've seen that Ice Road Truckers. So I don't communicate with anybody else in my family except for my older brother and sister. They're in their 80s, and they're like me. They think like me as far as politics go. The rest of them are just out of their minds. Trump and Robert Kennedy and anti-vaxxers and heavy-duty Lutheran churchgoers. Evangelical Lutherans, is there such a thing? I don't know. Anyway, I've just so I've been talking to my cousin, Susan is her name. We communicate on WhatsApp, and she's just curious as to what's going on here in the United States, because their news just looks, They do the same thing there. They sensationalize the news. It's not really news, it's more entertainment now. Nobody just does the news, just saying what's going on. So she's been seeing all these, our last communication, about a month or so ago, right after the election, she was going, "What's going on? It doesn't seems like you guys are just rolling over and dying." And I go, "Well, I think people are in shock and they're just getting organized. I doubt anybody's going to roll over and die with this. This is the United States. People are going to get out there and throw some rocks here and there. So sure enough, here we go. So, and she's horrified she asked me does everybody carry guns? And I go, well, probably most people don't, but there's a big portion of the population that carry guns. And she said something kind of silly like, "Oh, well, you don't, right?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I do. Remember, I come from a military family. My father was a colonel in the Air Force. My big brother went to Vietnam for 3 years. I got a gun. And it's just a crappy, it's a really nice gun. I could probably sell it for $600-700, old 357, sawed off one. Takes all the way up to whatever the maximum amount of grains, of gunpowder you can put in the cartridge. And I have lots of bullets. I haven't fired a damn thing in years, but I clean it. And I'd like to get a rifle. I really would like to get a rifle. I've been looking, but every time I see a nice rifle that I want, it always says sold out or out of stock. So I'm sure there's a lot of people got the same thing on their mind. I just want a little gun, like even a 22 is fine with me. And the problem with the 38 or the 357 is it's just so loud. It just blasts my ears ring. And if is trouble, how am I gonna? I'm gonna go looking for my ear protectors. Well, if there is trouble, I'm so old, I'm pretty well probably a goner anyway. So none of that matters. Anyway, I hope everybody's hanging in there good, and get out there and put a tomato in a pot and stick it on your front porch, or start a little garden in some area if you can. Even if it's inside, you can buy bolts of mushrooms and, just grow them on your countertop. They don't need much sun. Anyway, and with all this, everybody's talking about there's so many car companies out there now that are making just unbelievably neato cars. I don't know if anybody's seen the cars that they're making down in Mexico. They're, I forget what they call them, but they're beautiful. Beautiful little cars. The smallest one, which only gets, I think it gets about 110 miles to the charge, which is totally fine for cruising around town. Especially if you can just plug it into a 110 outlet at night. And they're going for like $4,000 or $5,000. Then they have upper grades, and it goes all the way up to you can buy a luxury sedan for $30,000, $40,000, but they have a little commuter car for people. And Mexico's investing in their trains and their infrastructure. Canada's starting to do the same thing. one thing this Trump presidency is doing is the rest of the world is getting organized. They're changing sides. We're an unreliable player now. They don't even want us at the NATO summits and things like that and even after the American people get their shit together and kick that bum out, which is what needs to happen. Him and little Marco. Oh, that's another little thing. Speaking of Florida fascists, little Marco making that deal with, I can't even pronounce the guy's name, from El Salvador, who's not even El Salvadorian. I think he's Middle Eastern somehow or another. His family's been in El Salvador for a generation or two, and the main business he could come up with is housing criminals in these horrific concentration camps. So he's turning his country into a giant concentration camp, and he's building another gigantic facility. I'm sure that we as American taxpayers are going to subsidize that through the Trump administration. Oh, well. I better slow down before I give myself a heart attack. I haven't done it for a while, so that's why I'm rattling on. Oh, God. It's already like 25 minutes. All right. That's enough. I am still going to do my best to do entertainment on this channel, not political stuff. I just haven't gotten to it. I have been practicing my guitar a little bit here and there, but my garden's been taking priority now for the last month, and probably will for about another month. I'm building trellises. I think I'm going to put a greenhouse in. Probably won't do that till this winter. And I'm expanding the garden. We do container. I used to do stuff in the ground, but we have a major vole problem around here, and raccoons, and coyotes that come in from the state forest. So the container gardens just seem to work out better for us. Put stuff in the ground, they just dig holes and do. I don't know if they're trying to get the fertilizer or what. Who knows the mind of a raccoon? I saw a raccoon back in a couple of years ago. I heard some ruckus and I went outside, shined my flashlight. It didn't move, and then it stood up, and that thing was as tall or taller than me. Now, I'm not real tall, but I'd say that raccoon was like, 5'7", standing on his hind legs. And he wasn't afraid of me. He just stared at me like, okay, what do you want, dude? Rocky Raccoon. All right. Adios, mi amigos y mi amigas, and buenas noches.